Hello, I'm Christina. I am a online yoga teacher, also mom of two. I made pregnancy videos and then I disappeared and now I'm back. 2 years later, here I am. I would like to share my first labor and delivery birth story with you, and then in another video I'll be sharing the second one. So I'm going to try and be as brief and succinct as physically possible. Every time I start to make a video, I hear my son crying. He needs to be napping. I don't know. I had my daughter, my first pregnancy. I was 38 weeks and 5 days pregnant when she was born. I had a very difficult pregnancy, a lot of illness during the first trimester. The second trimester wasn't so bad. However, I was extremely anxious throughout the entire pregnancy because I had lost 2 pregnancies before that. The third trimester was physically challenging as well, and a lot of movement, a lot of Braxton Hicks contractions, and it was just uncomfortable. 38 weeks rolled around. Oh, I started to have really bad. I had Braxton Hicks contractions basically starting in the early second trimester. Then they started to get more intense as the third trimester started to creep by. And then 38 weeks, it was just like full-on contractions. My 38-week appointment, I'm pretty sure I was about 3 or 4 centimeters dilated already and 80% effaced. But apparently that didn't mean anything, because when it's your first pregnancy, your first time giving birth, your body likes to take its sweet time. After my 38-week appointment, which I had at like 38 weeks and 2 days, my doctor did a sweep, a membrane sweep. It happened on a Thursday. The doctor was like, I'm going to be there on call during the weekend. I'll probably see you there. Spoiler alert, she did see me there. I was not admitted into labor and delivery from triage until the third time I had come. So I was having very, very severe prodromal labor contractions. So they were just a step up of the normal Braxton Hicks, to where I was screaming in pain, to the point of where the downstairs neighbor was banging on the ceiling, because basically it's labor contractions that aren't doing anything to progress labor along. It's just painful. Every time I went in, I was timing the contractions. I thought it was actually time, according to everybody who said, time your contractions if they're this amount apart or whatever. So I timed it, and my labor contraction app said that it was time to go to the hospital. So I went. They checked me. I was at the same dilation. They said go labor at home a little bit more. Several hours passed. I think it had come into Friday, and I went back. Still nothing. It was Friday night. I had lost a good portion of my mucus plug at that point. After the second time, I hadn't gone to the hospital. Hospital policy or whatever, they're not allowed to induce you until you turn 39 weeks. My doctor knew I was in a lot of pain from the contractions, but she was like, if you don't go into labor naturally over the weekend, so this appointment was on a Thursday, she scheduled herself to deliver the baby on that following Monday. So I would have gone in at 4 o'clock in the morning or something to start the induction process. So I guess Pitocin. So Friday night, it was just like, enough is enough. It was actually early Saturday morning. I don't remember the time that I went in. Maybe it was close to 4 in the morning. Saturday morning, I was like, enough is enough. I'm in so much pain. I cannot take it anymore. So I went in, cried in triage to the nurses. I was like, please tell me I'm dilated further. I basically labored at home for over 24 hours, that's for sure. Finally, the nurses took pity on me. I was not dilated any further. I broke down and I was like, I'm in so much pain. At that point, I was on the Saturday, I had just turned 38 weeks and 5 days. So I went in, the nurses took pity on me, and they admitted me to go into labor and delivery, and they scheduled me to have my epidural as soon as physically possible. So I had to go from triage to labor and delivery, get set up in that room. I had several contractions during that time before I got the epidural. The anesthesiologist came in. They gave me the epidural. I don't remember it hurting at all because I was just terrified of the epidural, but I didn't care at that point because I was in so much pain for so long that I was like, this is nothing compared to what I had been dealing with, the contraction pain. And then basically it wasn't that strong of an epidural. So I guess the doctor didn't want me to completely be numb. I could still feel my legs. I could still move my legs. I could still move, but the contraction pain was significantly decreased to the point of where I fell asleep and I could rest. And they gave me Pitocin during that time to help my body contract enough. The stronger the contractions, the more you dilate, the faster you dilate, apparently. So the Pitocin gave my body stronger contractions, which I didn't feel until I had to top up my epidural. So I would fall asleep, then I would wake up, and my epidural needed to be topped up because I had been sleeping and not pushing the little button to refill the medicine. So they had to keep coming in and helping me top up the epidural medication so that I didn't feel the Pitocin contractions, which are apparently way more intense than regular contractions. So I labored the entire day on Pitocin, sleeping on and off. And then finally, she kept coming in. She broke my water. My doctor kept coming in to check. She broke my water. She basically at one point said, a watched cervix never dilates. I think she went home for a while and did some work at home. Then she came back to check on me again. I was there for a really long time. So I got there at 4 o'clock in the morning, was admitted to labor and delivery maybe around 6 a.m. Had the epidural shortly after that. And then I basically was just in there all day. My husband was sleeping on the chair next to me. I was sleeping in the bed. And it was just a constant cycle of having to get the anesthesiologist to come in and top up the epidural medication, me falling asleep and waking up and the whole thing again. It was very uncomfortable still, but I was so tired that I was able to rest and allow my body to dilate. So by 8 p.m. that night, I was ready to push at 10 centimeters. They did not allow me to get any more epidural medication, so they basically wore off. They let the medication completely wear off. And I felt everything. My OB, 2 nurses in there, and my husband. They were all coaching me to push. It was a coach to push kind of situation. I was on my back. My feet were in the stirrups. I think my husband was holding my foot at one point, just to help me push. And they coached me to push for 3 hours. In between, Food Network was on. I think it was diners, drive-ins, and dives on the television when I was pushing. Not that I was watching the TV. I was so tired so you push during the contractions. So your contraction happens for a certain length of time and then the contraction stops and you stop pushing and you get to rest in between. During the rest periods, I was falling asleep and my husband and my doctor were having the time of their lives. They were chatting it up, having conversations, laughing. I was struggling, of course, but it was literally the most physically challenging thing I had ever done in my entire life. But I did it. 3 hours later, I had to get an episiotomy, according to my doctor, because the baby's heart rate slightly started to drop and she wanted to get the baby out sooner rather than later. My daughter was born at 11:47 p.m. She was perfectly fine. At one point during my laboring at the hospital, the nurses said I had a fever. I don't remember feeling anything fever-like, but apparently I had a fever, and I have penicillin allergy on my chart. I've had it since I was born, so they couldn't give me that specific antibiotic that they give you for to treat that during labor, so they had to give me something else. So anyway, to cut to the chase, basically they had to send my daughter to the NICU right after she was born, just for precautionary, just to do some tests on her. But she was returned to us the next morning, so I actually got some sleep. I got to do maybe half an hour of skin to skin with her. She did not latch, she just slept on my chest, and I held her for half an hour. And then they took her, and I was exhausted, my husband was exhausted, so they sent us up to recovery, postpartum recovery, and I slept. And then I woke up in a panic at 6 o'clock in the morning because I didn't know where my daughter was, and no one was giving us updates because we were asleep. So finally, at around 7 a.m., I was able to get a hold of the NICU, and my daughter was returned to our room shortly after that. And then we spent the next day in the hospital, so all of that Sunday, and we were discharged on Monday, the next day. Because of COVID, we were allowed one person in the room to visit other than my husband and myself. So my mom came. She was only allowed to be there for 3 hours, but she was able to visit. And then we all went home. And so it began, my journey of motherhood. That was my labor and delivery story for my first child. There are some similarities with the second labor and delivery story and a lot of differences. So if you're interested in hearing about that story, stay tuned for the next video. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. If you are watching this and you are in your 3rd trimester of pregnancy or just pregnant and wondering about what it's going to be like, good luck. You're going to be just fine. Just try and stay positive. Best of luck to you. Lots of positive vibes for your labor and delivery. You can do this. You are stronger than you even know. And if you want to hear about my second labor and delivery, come back next time. All right. Have a good day. Bye.